Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to lose weight permanently and feel better about your life, then do we have the Feed Your Soul show for you. Today I'll be talking with Carly Pollack, founder of Nutritional Wisdom, a certified clinical nutritionist with a master's in holistic nutrition and the author of a macronutrient-dense, wisdom-filled book, Feed Your Soul. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about nutritional wisdom to lose weight permanently and live fulfilled. That plus we'll talk about creamed spinach and microwaves, pistachio coconut milk ice cream, cutting lawns with scissors, Steve energy and Jedi mind tricks, Manhattan speeding and jingling change, why failure feels like French fries, why you never want to stand between an about-to-be bride and the last whole food salad, and what in the world a pizza binge and a Newman's Own chocolate mint cookie debacle has to do with anything. Gotcha. So welcome to the show, Carly. Are you ready to shine?
Born ready.
Woohoo! Did I mention we were going to have some fun today?
You did, and I believe you.
Very cool. Okay, so before we dive right into things, if we go back on time, way on back on time, what are your earliest memories around food?
My earliest memories around food are being rewarded with food and also punished with food, meaning dessert was a hot spot. Dessert would be given if I did something great, but dessert can also be taken away if I did something quote unquote bad. So, I remember my mom cooking a lot of our meals and doing the best she could for what she knew at that time, and loving food. My family celebrating with food. We're a Jewish family, and Jews, much like many other cultures, we love to celebrate with food. I remember my grandmother, making me finish my plate, which is the antithesis of conscious eating. So when I was intuitively done, she said, no, you need to finish. But mostly I remember being rewarded with food.
So it's interesting. I go back to my good Jewish mom who didn't know what to do with me. And so she would regularly send me to bed or send me to my bedroom without dinner if she didn't feel I behaved. And food became, I struggled with food issues the majority of my life. I got it taken care of 5 to 8 years ago, somewhere in that time frame when I finally got blood sugar challenges under control. But food became a method of control. And when food has other things attached to it, I think it was Marissa Peer we had on the show who said, all food eating is an act of regression.
Interesting.
So going back, we're going to regress. Let's take you back to around 12. When did you realize you had food challenges?
Around 12, I went through puberty and I started to gain weight. And I think that a lot of the time we don't realize our relationship with food, or that we even have one, until our relationship with our body image is born.
Yeah.
And around 12, I started to like boys. I went through puberty. My weight started to change and I started to not like the way I looked. And all of a sudden, there was food. I don't think I gave any thought to it before then.
And did you start dieting, and what did your diets look like?
Oh, they were horrendous. I remember, I do remember around that time thinking that if I only ate one bite of every food every meal, that I would lose weight. And I think that lasted through one meal because I love food. And so I had one bite and then was hungry 20 minutes later and thought, okay, this isn't going to work. But the craziest diet I've ever done was a diet called Body for Life. And it was a diet where you eat 6 meals a day. 3 of those are, a powdered protein shake that has questionable ingredients. And then on Sunday was a free day. But for me, that became a binge day. So for someone who just was unhappy with their body and started to notice an uneducated relationship with food, that diet created a negative relationship with food. I felt like I was starting disordered eating by having this one day. I remember there was one Sunday I went to a children's birthday party, which is the, epiphany of just, or the coming together of the most disgusting foods that you could possibly think of. And I think I ate 6 or 7 corn dogs. And it was at that moment, and Doritos and cake. And I was so sick after. But that was very much the first experience I had around when you create scarcity with food, what happens as a consequence.
So, and then that brings us to the next question. What did Monday mornings typically mean to you?
Oh, I mean, Monday morning was repent for your late night cookie sins. And there was this pendulum swing that I created between food prison, which was Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
and reckless abandonment on the weekend. While I was on that diet, it was just Sunday, but typically it started on Friday because in our minds, that's the weekend. So Friday night to Sunday night. And even if I wasn't hungry on Sunday night, the mind, that voice in my head would say, tomorrow you're putting the shackles back on. So this is your last chance, sweetheart. You better eat something right now before you go into the diet chaos of Monday.
That lack, that scarcity, that fear has got to, that had to overwhelm everything. There's
also a limiting belief that attaches onto the fear that Monday, new awareness or consciousness that Monday I'll be set straight and that weekend won't happen again. There's this, real, and if it's not Monday, we say the first of the month or the first of the year. There's always that place where we go, at that point, something will miraculously enter me and I will be at peace with food. And what you mentioned about this scarcity and fear, it doesn't even have to be food related. We can see so many ways that scarcity drives humans to do crazy things. I've bought a plane ticket before that I wasn't 100% sure that the dates were correct because the website said there was only one ticket left. And I thought, I need that ticket. And so I bought it and then checked the dates, just really crazy things. We buy things. We buy designer clothes that are 100 times more expensive than what they cost to make because not everyone can own them. And so that feeling of scarcity for other people makes us feel more abundant in having them. And with food, Thanksgiving is the craziest, best example of what happens when you create scarcity around food. You take these foods that we all love, and for whatever crazy reason, we decide we can only eat them that one day. So if you had stuffing in March, that would be totally inappropriate. So we binge, and then we create this story about the holiday that we're supposed to binge. And then January 1st, everyone's trying some fad diet that's going to leave them even more frustrated than when they started.
And we're going to dive into the fad diets. Before we do, I'm going to take you through your history just a little bit more. It's talking about somehow this actually has to do with scarcity, which is what I'm going to call me search, going to school to learn everything that you possibly could about nutrition.
We've heard before that we teach what we most need to learn. And it was this quest for me to figure out, I was always fascinated with food. So even before me needing to figure out how to heal myself, I loved to scratch and sniff food stickers. I loved cartoons that had food. I was just very into food and always a foodie. But yeah, starting this quest of trying to figure out and gather these tools so that I could ultimately help myself. And then I went to school for mainstream nutrition because that's what was available. So my undergraduate degree is it's a bachelor's of science in nutrition. And it wasn't until I got my master's degree in holistic nutrition that I really learned anything of true value.
What was the switch flip for you? Because as you talk about in the beginning of the book, the power of an intention. In fact, we probably should all set an intention for this interview. What was it that flipped your switch?
That's so wise of you to say. Let's all take a moment and set an intention that we are going to take one small step, not one massive action step, but from our conversation, that there's going to be one thing that really speaks to your soul, that really gives you the, goosebumps that we say. And I want you to take swift action when you finish listening or watching this. And that will be the intention, to take one small step in the right direction.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Could you repeat the other question?
Yes. What was either your no mas moment, no more, or the decision that you made that says, this is beyond a food issue. I am going to crack this nut?
There are times when I wish that I had a really drastic aha moment, because it makes for a really good story. Oh, I woke up and there were Oreos, all over my face.
Newman's
And I
Own, of
realized,
course.
at Newman's Own, and I realized, and I saw the light and God came through me, and then I knew. But honestly, for me, it was a bunch of small realizations. It was the, 20th time I gained 10 pounds. And I started to add it up and say, wow, I think I've gained over, and lost over 300 pounds, but it's the same 10 to 15 pounds, every week. It was moments where I woke up on Monday saying, this is not working. What I'm doing is just not working. And then there was a moment where I had already started coaching. This was about 15 years ago, and clients were mirroring to me what was happening in my own life. I had all of this nutrition information, and clients would come to me and I would give them the information that I knew if they followed it would heal them and help them live their best lives. And they would do it for a period of time, just like I would. And we'd celebrate the win. There would be some sort of reward. And then they'd come in eventually and say, hey, I can't manage to do that thing anymore, even though it made me feel really good. And there would be at that moment that not only would I feel like, ooh, me too, but I wouldn't have anything to say to them except for, hey, you really need to be doing that thing again, which wasn't helpful. And it was at that moment that I did realize that there is a massive spiritual, emotional component to how we treat ourselves, what we think, how we eat, and that our thoughts ultimately drive what shows up on our plate. That our plate is a reflection of our inner state, and that I had been ignoring my inner state for so long because traditional science had been teaching me to just focus on behavior modification.
In fact, I love this term that you have here. What is food karma?
Food karma is a term I created because I realized, we know that karma is like attracts like. And I realized that when you feel like crap, you crave foods that will make you feel like crap. And when you feel great and you've just meditated and gone to yoga class, you don't leave saying, I'd really love to stuff my face with McDonald's. And the term food karma is to clear up the misnomer that we give to comfort foods. When we call a food a comfort food in our American culture, those foods are often, and I'm willing to be wrong, but I would say in most all other cultures that the very foods that we consider comforting are heavy foods that make us not feel good. I've never eaten a comfort food and then felt comfortable in my body after. But we know that words carry so much power. So when we say, I'm just feeling like comfort and I really want this comfort food, it tricks the mind into believing that comfort is what we're left with after we eat the food. And actually, while we eat the food, we're quite numb. And after we eat the food, we have two problems now, not one. We have the problem we had that we needed comfort for. And now we have the second problem, which is we feel like crap and our guts are messed up and we're bloated and we don't poop for the next 3 days.
Yeah, my wife bought for herself a nice pie from Whole Foods for Thanksgiving. There was a lot of irony in this. I could not eat it because I knew that it was a discomfort food for me. She actually then baked something with pumpkin and what was it? I don't remember. It had coconut milk or coconut sugar or something. And I had a little bit of that and it ended up the same response. So it's important to look, I call myself the canary in the coal mine. My stomach bloats. I think all of ours do if we put the food to ourselves and ask, how does this make me feel? Not on memory, but what the body has to say.
Mm-hmm. I believe that everybody is on a diet. I am on a crusade to neutralize the word diet because we've gotten so scared of the second we say the word diet, we feel scarcity, we feel restriction. The truth is, diet is defined by what you eat. So you could be on a really diet and just eat French fries, or you could be on the paleo diet or a vegan diet or the seafood diet. If you seafood, you eat it. But, I want people to be on the diet that their body creates. I want to be on the Carly diet. I want you to be on the Michael diet. I want everyone to find their individualized protocol. And then my job is to help you control the voice in your head so that you have an authentic desire to wake up every day honoring whatever your body tells you, which is so hard. My Carly diet is not the diet I would choose if I got to wave a magic wand. And it's not the diet I would wish upon other people. I have a very sensitive system. My husband calls me a delicate flower. I am not the type of person that could eat a cheese plate and just feel okay after. Whereas my husband, I swear to you, he could eat a bag of rocks. Yep. He could eat a bag of rocks, he'd poop them out, and I don't think he would feel even mild discomfort. I, like you, can sit next to a food and I don't feel well. Yep. So it's not the diet that I've chosen for myself, but it's taken me a lot of work to level with my body and to be in a loving, respectful relationship where as it's telling me this is what I need from you, I say, okay, that I'm willing to do this.
I love it. And I love that you say listen to, because to me, diets are seasonal at best. They're continuously ebbing and flowing and changing. So the Carly diet today, I am fully convinced, come spring, come summer, is a completely different diet. But if you stick to the rigid rules, which gets us back to scarcity of which you're going to crack, you're lost.
Black and white thinking is one of the most destructive, patterns for lasting health and happiness. People are so desperate, which I understand because I was one of them for many years, is they're so desperate to just know that what they're doing is right. It's so much harder to wake up every day in this body and say, okay, where am I today? And to be clued in to what you're thinking and how you're feeling, which is always in fluid motion. We're dying to just say, someone tell us paleo is correct. Tell us vegan is the way to eat. And then I can just focus on reading this book and being vegan, but that's not the way it works. And, I will post, I am really active on Instagram and I'm always posting in my stories, my meals. And sometimes I have a vegan meal and sometimes I'm eating a meal that has animal protein, and people are so confused. They don't know what box to put me in. The vegans get mad at me and then the paleo people get mad at me. And this is about me waking up and based on how I've slept, how I'm moving for the day. If I've pooped today, what I'm feeling, energetically, that is what is winding up on my plate.
I love it, in fact. And I want to dive into some of the more principles here, but you talk about somebody who came in and I am what the tattoo is, I guess is the best way to describe it. Somebody came in all weak and pasty and pretty much hair falling out and nails apart. And they went from vegan to, you wanted to add to their tattoo years later, vegan-ish.
This woman came in as a new client and she sat down. She didn't just sit down. If I could, she slumped down in the chair and she looked so unwell. And her hair was falling out and she had ashy complexion and her tongue was pale and her eyes were pale and she was, visibly upset and exhausted. At the same time, she was talking to me, telling me all of her symptoms. I noticed out of the corner of my eye, she had this really wicked, hardcore tattoo on her arm, and part of the tattoo said vegan. Long story short, she was vegan, and it wasn't the diet that was what was needed as medicine for that moment. But she was so desperate, and I find that as soon as we get to, everyone has a different pain threshold, and we can talk more about that, but as soon as we get to our pain threshold, we are willing to do things that normally we would never consider. And she was willing to consider adding in bone broth and starting to eat some fish. And so a year later, I helped her and she got better and started losing weight and felt amazing. And then a year later, I ran into her in the grocery store and she was saying, "Oh my goodness, and you changed my life." And we were talking and she said, but you owe me money because now I need to get rid of this tattoo and you should pay for this tattoo. And we were joking around and I said, "Well, I'm Jewish. So I'm always looking to save get a good deal." I was just, poking fun at myself. I said, "Well, I'm going to add ish to it. I'm not going to pay for the full removal. I'm just going to add ISH."
And for those listening who wonder about me, I am a staunch animal proponent like you wouldn't believe, and anybody who listens to the show believes how nutty I am at saving even a single ant. But after my second NDE, I found myself in a similar condition, and I found myself pining over the food that I was feeding my cats until I took 6 months off of being vegan, gave myself first the bone broth, then whatever my body asked for, and then it asked for less, and then it asked for less, and I was on my healing journey. Time in a place, we can be kind and compassionate, time and a place for everything in life. With that said, tell us about this, because everything has to do with this. The difference between willpower and discipline.
Willpower, people use them interchangeably, and I think they couldn't be further apart. Willpower for me comes from an energy of fear. It feels like I want to eat this food, but I shouldn't because of whatever consequence I'm fearing, because it'll make me fat, because it'll give me a stomach ache, because it will delay in my healing. And so when whether we eat it or don't eat it, it doesn't matter because the stress response of the battle back and forth, actually most times we wind up eating it just to shut up the voice in the head and just to stop the chaos. We go, just eat it and stop the chaos. That is willpower. And even if somebody says, "I used willpower and I didn't eat the food," I find that later in the week or a few days later, they wind up overcompensating and it comes back to bite you in the butt. You wind up overeating a box of gluten-free crackers instead, but that energy of fear around food is still there. Discipline comes from the opposite emotion of fear. It comes from the emotion of love. It comes from this place where I can look at a food that I love and I say, "I love this food. It tastes amazing. In fact, I know exactly what it tastes like, but I love myself more. I love my healing journey more. I love where I'm heading towards more." So I respect the food. I, thank the food for being there for a place and time when it's available to me. And I move forward. And there's just this feeling of strength and power and respect and healing versus willpower, which I may or may have not eaten the food, but it really doesn't matter because I feel bad about it.
Since you talk about love and available, you use the word available. To me, one of the best ways that I find to be loving with a discipline is when I shop, only shop for the foods that are most loving and kind to myself, so that if it's not there in the house, I'm not going to eat it.
I know at the end of after dinner, since I'm very much, Pavlov's dog, growing up a child who always had dessert. So after dinner, every single night, there's a little voice in my head that says, "Okay, what's for dessert?" And tea is the answer. I don't have anything else. If I had something, believe me, I'd be shoving it, down my gullet. But I have tea and cashew milk and some stevia, and that's all that's there. I do want to say that what we're talking about doesn't mean that you never eat foods that may not agree with your body. There are things that are never sugar doesn't make anyone feel particularly amazing. But there's a time and place for me to eat that, and it's good for my soul, not for my body. We have to have indulgence in some parts, or else it will backfire.
Before this interview, and I joked with you before we went on air, I'm reading Feed Your Soul, and what did I have this morning? I had some I guess it's whole wheat flour tortillas with organic, for that matter, almond butter with organic low sugar chocolate chips, because I just found out Jessica's pregnant, and for some reason I wanted the sugar rush, and I'm like, I'm okay with that right now.
Mm-hmm. And people say, I deserve it. I don't want it to be a reward, because then there's a punishment. There's always the yin yang. It's not it's not because you deserve it. It's part of life. Everything in moderation, even moderation in moderation, which Maya Angelou said, and it's really true. For people who don't allow themselves to indulge in food, there's a piece of that foodie life experience that we don't get. So for me, I do not do well with gluten, and or dairy, and I am completely gluten and dairy free. Except if I'm in New York, I'm eating a slice of pizza.
Oh, you're brave.
And there's going to be consequence. And I promise you, I will not poop for 3 days, but it is worth it. What's not worth it is for me to, have a piece of pizza here in Austin, Texas, growing up as a New Yorker. It's like eating a bagel or a piece of pizza here. Forget it. Yeah. If I go to Italy, I'm going to have gelato. I might get the tasters instead of a large, just have a few tastes of it. But I would hate for someone to be so black and white that they would go to another country and not experience that cuisine unless they were on a healing protocol, and it would drastically put them back from where they want to be. But if you're willing to deal with the consequence, then these things are important as well.
Thank you. Thank you. On that note, how do we learn to love foods that love us back?
The first step is to identify what are the foods that love you back. What are the foods that don't like you at all? Mm-hmm.
So the digestive
system. Yeah, the digestive system can tell you. A lot of people don't know because they put the same foods in. We eat the same, 15 or so foods every week. And if you're putting dairy, gluten, soy, corn, whatever the inflammatory food may be that doesn't work for you, if you're chronically eating it, you have this overall low level of energy, and you kind of get used to it, so you don't know it's making you feel bad. For the people listening or watching that say, well, I don't even know the foods that don't love me back, what I would recommend doing is a 10-day cleanse where you're eating only health-giving foods, and I can give some guidance there. And then you start to introduce these foods, because your body will speak so much louder to you when there's been an absence of that food for a period of time. So the first step is make this list of, I know I always feel bloated, overly full, or I know I crave sweets directly after eating XYZ. And when I have this salad or this smoothie or these vegetables, I know that I feel extremely energetic. My digestive system works really well, no bloating. I have a bowel movement every single day. Then from that list, you go to the next step.
Beautiful. So you mentioned, you said we can talk more about that. You said health-giving foods, or you call it at another point in your book, higher vibration foods. What are some examples of this, or super sleuthing for examples for ourselves?
Higher vibration foods are foods that rot and spoil extremely quickly. The higher a vibration a food holds, the quicker its death, so to speak. We can see avocados rot before our very eyes.
Yes.
Versus I'm going to use a specific example, versus a gluten-free, enriched with vitamins cereal that's sitting in a plastic bag in a cardboard box that sits on the shelf and can do so for 6 months to a year and be completely fresh.
I think they had some of those with the Pharaoh, and you could still eat them today.
Yeah, and there's a reason why I didn't say Twinkie. I think that we all know that a Twinkie or fast food is going to be a low vibration, but we can get confused by these seemingly health foods. I mean, all throughout college, every single day for breakfast, I had a bowl of Kashi Goleen cereal.
Oh God,
that's
was a big bloater for me.
Oh yeah, with skim milk.
Forget it. I'd be down for the count.
Oh, that was, the 90s. I also ate a box of Snackwell's cookies every night. But that was the information of that time. We were trying to be low fat, and we were trying to get high fiber and wheat, and Kashi Goleen it was like I I thought, oh, I'm really taking one for the team here. Like I'm being healthy. I really want, Fruity Pebbles, but I'm going to eat Kashi Lean. I felt very superior in my, my ego was very into the fact that I was eating Kashi Lean, people. It was very healthy at the time.
I don't want to pick on Kashi, but that's one that I did, that I had a lot of troubles with once I figured it out. My guess it was that 3-letter word in there. It's probably a lot more that, but it had the G, it had the M, and it had the O in it, at least at the time. And that one just ground my gut up.
And we can agree, just to give Kashi a little bit of credit, that Kashi Lean is going to be a healthier cereal than Fruity Pebbles.
Yes.
So it is that level up. But for the people who are wanting ultimate health and vitality, regardless of the quality of the cereal, it doesn't carry a high vibration in the example of what we're talking about, the vibration of foods, because it doesn't rot and spoil. So a cleanse to me would be a large emphasis on foods that rot and spoil. When I do a cleanse, I do 10 days of, and if it's just a food cleanse, I take away all of the dairy, obviously, the processed sugar. So you can have fruit. I do 2 servings of fruit per day because my blood sugar is sensitive. No corn, no GMO foods, obviously, no packaged foods or processed foods. And I put an emphasis on heavy plant-based. So as many raw, slightly cooked vegetables as I can get my hands on, fresh juice, healthy quality oils, life-giving vegan sources of oil like coconut oil, coconut milk, olive oil, and small amounts of animal protein if that's the cleanse I feel I need to do at that time. Or sometimes I do a completely vegan cleanse and I'm just eating fruits, vegetables, and sprouted nuts and seeds. It really just depends. But notice that even animal protein rots and spoils. So if we're just talking about the vibration of foods, we're talking about getting rid of the processing of foods for 10 days. And if you suspect, the main offenders for gut health in my mind are gluten and dairy. So if you suspect that these things may not love you back, but you don't know, remove them from your diet for 10 days and then eat them again and see what the response is.
Thank you. Since we're hearing kind of a yin-yang here, why don't we talk? Let's dive straight into it. What can you tell us about divine pleasure and exquisite pain?
Using pain and pleasure to get clear on what the stories are that your mind has around food. And when I say mind, I just want to clarify, the brain is something we can see in an autopsy. It's a physical thing. The mind is that voice, and we don't quite know where it comes from, but we assume that it's, between our 2 ears. The voice in our head, the stories that we create around food are either driving pleasure towards doing that behavior or driving pain. And when you learn about the survival mechanism of human beings and why the mind was created in an effort to keep us surviving, we don't do anything we attach pain to. We fight or flight when we feel pain. And we seek pleasure because seeking pleasure actually was keeping us alive. When you think about all of the habits that you'd like to change and do more consistently, the first step is to see what pain stories you are attaching. So let's say we're talking about juicing, because I'm a big advocate of juicing. And let's say I'm talking to a client and I say, okay, it's time to up level. We're going to start juicing vegetables. And they go, oh man, but the time, and you have to clean the juicer, and that's so annoying. And then you have to buy all these vegetables and then they rot. And then I have all this compost I don't know what to do with. And then I have all these extra, whatever they're saying, pain, pain, pain. It doesn't even matter what they're saying. I know there's pain attached. And the only way that they'll do it consistently is if I remove the pain. If we don't remove the pain, they'll do it for a period of time. But ultimately, the pain story will keep them from being consistent.
How do you remove that pain story and the pain story over that 4-letter word, time? I don't have time to cook, time to prepare, time to clean the machine, or even in one part of the book, you talk about if you need to, for instance, if you're on a candida or low sugar diet, time to plan out an entire week worth of dinners.
Time is the biggest pain story I hear out of any other pain story. It's time, because it's a resource that we'll never feel we have enough of if that's where our focus is. There are a few things I do to associate more pleasure and less pain to time. One, on a very light level, I look at logistics. So if we keep with the juicing example, can I listen to a podcast while I'm juicing?
You're in points with me.
A specific podcast,
More
an
points.
inspiring podcast, and can I attach pleasure to cooking, juicing by watching a movie, listening to a podcast, listening to music, something that helps me feel like at the same time I'm being productive, because really the time pain story is that we're wasting time. We're not able to do other things with our time. So first and very surface, I'm looking at, can I do something else while I'm doing this that would help me feel like I'm maximizing my time? Let's say you can't. Let's say it's something like meditation. And you just have to sit there and meditate. You can't juice at the same time. Or, my mother likes to say, well, I'll meditate while I'm, in the car. I'm like, no, not really. It needs to just be done as a solo thing. Then I go deeper and I change the story. Usually how I attach pleasure to the story is I put my focus on the outcome of what I will receive by doing this behavior instead of the process of what it takes. What you'll notice is anytime you feel like you're drowning in failure when it comes to a behavior, it's because you're focusing on the process, on the to-do list, on the time it takes. You're not focusing on what doing that thing will create for you in your life.
Thank you. When you talk about what that thing will create, I have a hunch you're going to agree with me on this one. Do you help people to focus rather than the long-term big picture, which is that holy mountain, holy grail way off in the distance, more on real tangible, you're going to feel better now. This moment, you're going to feel better.
I do both, because there also are things where they won't feel better right away. Juicing, they may not feel better right away, but it is the long-term. Long-term and short-term pleasure are both excellent motivators. I always look for the short-term because that's how we're wired. So if there's short-term where you can feel better now, by all means, I want to create clarity around that. But long-term pleasure will always be there for you, even if short-term isn't. Even with weight loss, let's say you have a lot of weight to lose. Yeah. Of course, I want them to celebrate the first 5 pounds, and that's feeling better now. But it may take a good 30 pounds before that cloud starts to lift. Or if somebody has candida or parasite or leaky gut or, imbalanced brain chemistry, or their hormones are out of balance, sometimes it takes 6 months or longer to really have that first lift. And in that way, if they don't have any short-term pleasure, then they have no choice but to constantly keep their focus on long-term. And I say in the book, what you focus on is your reality. It's what you feel, even if it's not true. I could be watching TV and I'm alone in the house and I'm completely fine. And then a commercial comes on for a scary movie and all of a sudden I'm not fine and I'm scared and my heart starts pumping a little faster and I start kind of looking around and then I hear, the cat makes a sound and it scares me. Nothing has changed in my environment. I'm still as safe as I was before the commercial, but now I'm focusing on that. So how I feel is unsafe. What we focus on, we feel, even if it isn't true, which means we could focus on the positive and feel that even if it's not yet manifested for us.
Woohoo! Let's talk from there about the importance of a food journal.
You can't manage what you don't measure. And the reason why I like a food journal is because I am vehemently against calorie counting.
Thank you.
I will not allow anyone under my guidance to count calories. And that is because not only is it not accurate, but it separates us from that consciousness around food. Then people say, oh, I have 200 calories left, then I must eat something, when they're not physically hungry for it. Or it's a day where your metabolism is, some days I feel like I'm an empty garbage pit and I'm just eating and eating and eating. And some days I'm not very hungry. With counting calories, you can't possibly listen to the intuitive nature of the body. But if you don't count calories, then people go, well, if I don't count calories, then how do I know? I do believe if you bite it, you write it, and writing it down. So at the end of the day, you can look at this and connect it with your emotional state, connect it with the stories that you tell yourself, and then write on paper, it jumps out at you exactly what needs to be healed.
Thank you. Let's talk about some more of the tenets of mindful eating or conscious eating. In fact, I'm going to go through a handful from your book. And this first one is the most basic, but so powerful, we ignore this one. Eat only when hungry.
It's the hardest one. I almost feel like such a turd for saying it to people because, insert eye roll here. It's like, duh, of course we should only eat when physically hungry. But there's only two reasons why we eat. We eat for physical hunger and we eat to shift an emotion, either shift or up level an emotion. So we feel happy and then we want to celebrate. So we use food to get to that next level. Well, think about how many emotions as humans we are capable of feeling. So even though it feels like, oh, you only eat if you're physically hungry or one other reason, if there's over 200 different emotions that we feel, then there's 200 different reasons why we eat. So to say eat only when you're physically hungry, it takes a lot of consciousness to figure out, is it physical hunger or is it a myriad of other emotions that could be posing as a physical need for food?
I love it. Here's another one that I love. And I've played with this one by eating with my other hand. It flips a switch in my mind. Eat as if you're a professional food critic.
I am obsessed with watching all of those shows. Since I've had a baby, TV's gone out the window. Yep. So for all of you listening who don't have children, enjoy your television. But I used to always watch all of those food shows, and it was so fascinating to see how they really honored food. They take a bite of food, and then they talk about the saltiness, and it's creamy, and it's a little tad acidic from the citrus, whatever. And they're so into it. And there's such a respect and honoring this. And then they take a few bites and it's on to the next thing. They don't order an entire bowl of pasta and then just shove it into their mouth, every bite tasting the same. And they don't even pay attention until the bowl's empty and they say, oh, did I eat this? I mean, we've all been there. I tend to unconsciously eat healthy food more than I unconsciously eat unhealthy food at this point. So if you're at that next level, the first level of unconsciousness is we actually tend to binge unhealthy foods. But now that I eat mostly healthy foods, there's a new story that's come from the ego, which is, oh, it's healthy. So you can just eat it. You don't have to be tuned in because you've already portioned your food out and you know it's healthy. So you can answer emails while you eat the salad because you'll be fine. And I tend to be more conscious when I'm eating unhealthy food because it's so rare that I do eat it like a food critic. I go, wow, this bite of creamy, delicious chocolate cake. So I'm asking the reader to treat every meal as if they were a food critic and really pay attention to the way it tastes and feels and smells, all of the senses.
Thank you. That brought up a really interesting point, which is I'm convinced that, and I'm Mr. I call it the Buddha belly. So, things will swell me. There's no way you'll get me a million miles from dairy. It just doesn't work. But if we are conscious, if we bring incredible energy to that food, and the magic G word, if we bring gratitude, blessing our food, being with the food, taking time with the food, I'm convinced that'll go at least halfway. This is not a go past jail, collect $200 kind of thing, but the energy you bring to the food is as important as what the food is itself.
I have had a meal where there have been leftovers, and I've eaten the meal and it's a health, let's just say it's healthy. And I've eaten the meal at home, slowly, digested it perfectly, and then I eat it the next day at work while I'm rushed, while everyone is asking things of me, while I have my emails are building up, and I start burping after the meal, and I start bloating after the meal. And there's this beautiful story, and I'm blanking on his name, so I'm sorry not to give him credit, but he wrote an amazing book, and I'll try to remember it towards the end of our conversation. Yeah. But he is a vegan, a practicing vegan, and he talks about how every Thanksgiving he would go to his mother's house, and she would be so upset that he would not eat the turkey, and he wouldn't eat the stuffing that was made with bone broth. And that one year he just decided that he was going to honor his mother's, food is love belief, and he was going to eat this food. And he said that he digested it so well because it was in a loving environment. It was about love. Whereas most vegans who haven't eaten meat for a very long time, their pancreas is not used to secreting those enzymes. So the first time they eat meat, they don't feel well unless they're really introducing it in small amounts and taking protease, a digestive enzyme. And it was a beautiful story just to show that the energy that you bring to the food is, as you said, just as important as the food itself. So I challenge you that when you're eating unhealthy food, don't be in your head about it and feeling guilty about it and starting to, make yourself wrong about it. Don't create scarcity about it, which will make you overeat it saying, oh, when am I going to get this food again? And just sit and see if you can bring total love, awareness, and slowness to the meal. And your body might surprise you with how it reacts.
You are speaking my language. This food, whatever it is, even though it's blah, 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 and we can drop the story for now, is going to make me feel better, is going to make me feel great. I bless you, food. I thank you, food. Thank you for doing so incredibly well in my body. Thank you, body, for being able to handle this food and make me feel great from it.
Something you said before that I really want to bring back, where you were talking about how you were vegan and you're such an animal lover. And I know that there's many people who have a belief that it cannot be, if you love animals, that you then eat animals. And I've talked to many people who say, if you love animals, how could you love your cat and then eat a cow? And I really disagree.
I have to pause you for a second. If you love your cat, unfortunately, there's no choice. You will feed your cat the cow or something else as well.
Because that's what the cat eats. Yeah. And, and I don't agree with that at all. I am an incredible animal lover. I, like you, do not eat a bug, a fly. I do not kill anything. I donate yearly to the ASPCA. I have 3 animals now. I'm so passionate about animal welfare. And I also listen to my body and know that if I am not in the best health and vitality, that I cannot go out there and do my dharma and complete my work in this world and be an advocate. And just like you said before you eat the food, thank you. When I eat animal protein, thank the animal protein, especially for people listening who are having some moral and ethical disconnect and feeling like, oh, my body really needs this right now. And I'm getting messages to eat this, but I'm wanting to go against it because of my mental construct and belief about, what this means about my love for animals. And I invite you to, before you eat the animal protein, just take a moment and thank the animal for giving its life and choose animals that lived well and died happy. One bad moment is the way I think about it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. On that note, since we're talking about being extra present, and I'm going to go back to the animals. Bless it, bless it, bless it. I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mm-hmm. Being extra present halfway through your meals, and which is why I'm a big proponent of small plates, small cups, and stop. Take a breather.
There is a hormone in your body called leptin. And that hormone gives your brain, releases from the stomach and gives your brain the signal, you are full. That hormone is slow. I say it has about a 15-minute lag time from when you eat to getting that message. And if we eat as hurriedly as we are in the practice of eating, you notice you finish your meal, you feel okay, and then about 10 minutes later, you feel too full. And I actually this was an aha moment for me when I really started to deepen my practice of meditation. I would notice that I would eat a meal, a healthy meal, and then I would go to meditate after, and I would sit down, and when I closed my eyes, and I wasn't being distracted by all of the outside triggers, I closed my eyes to go within, and I would think, oh wow, I'm really full. Like I'm kind of too full, even after eating this salad, but I didn't feel full before I closed my eyes. So that, the taking the breather, the slowing down to allow leptin to give your brain the signal, I'm full. The closing your eyes to have awareness to say, okay, how is my stomach feeling right now? To visualize it filling up with food. Is this enough? That pause is incredibly important to let those questions come through. And now as a mom, a new mom of an 8.5-month-old baby girl, you're constantly pulled away from your meal. So I'll go to eat a meal and then she needs something and I go to do something for her and I come back and I'm not hungry anymore because leptin has given, and I'm looking at this meal that I would completely have finished if I didn't take that time. So if any of you have had that experience of being pulled away by a phone call or a child or a work email that is really time sensitive, and then you come back to your meal, you go, I don't even want this anymore. We're asking for an intentional pause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Going to move through some things real quickly here. We get to wrap up in the next 5 to 8 minutes or so and do a brief meditation as well. So first off, this is one that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm wondering how you tie it into eating, the importance of a morning or evening self-care routine.
How we tie it into eating is in the morning, I take time every morning to visualize myself eating throughout the day. I visualize myself, we typically know where we're going to be throughout the day. So if I know I'm going to the work office or if I'm working from home, I visualize myself eating my meal slowly, making the right choices. I visualize myself being triggered by a food. So someone saying, oh, hey, I brought these cookies into the office, or going to my sister's house and her saying, oh, there's a muffin, something that I didn't expect to eat during the day and having a craving for it. And I visualize myself saying, no, thank you. I love this food, but I love myself more. And then at the end of the day, I take some inventory and I ask myself some questions I ask myself 4 questions at the end of the day. And one of the things I do in addition to that is I think about, how did I wind up eating through the day, and did it match my intention for the morning? And if not, what can I do tomorrow to bring that intention and my reality more in alignment? So I call it an awareness sandwich. So it's an awareness in the morning and awareness in the evening. And I told you I love food, so of course I have to call it a sandwich.
I love that. And it brings us, if we were to bring this as a sandwich, we're going to have to do a sandwich with a little extra on top. As a sandwich, we started with setting an intention. We've come right back around to seeing if that intention, awareness, matched up with what we set. So each day, if we set that intention, today, what I desire around food is X, Y, Z. That's incredibly powerful. And that gets into a whole other topic for another show, which is rewiring the subconscious. But where I'm going to go, I'm going to switch us to another direction here. I've got a real personal question. Chapter 7, it's time to do you, boo. Did you really write this chapter right from your bath?
No, I was lying.
All right, 5 non-negotiables of weight loss, health, and vitality. What can you tell us about each one? Real quickly, sleep.
The best thing is to wake up and go to sleep at the same time every single day, and even the weekends. I know how hard that is, but you have to give yourself a bedtime.
Absolutely. Cooking.
There's no way around this. you have to cook your own foods a majority of the time. Restaurants, their number one goal is to make the food taste good, and that isn't always synonymous with making the food healthy. You have to have your hands in what you cook, and you need to cook at least 80% of your meals.
Thank you. Exercise.
You got to move your body, and if you're sedentary, you need to move your body even more. If you have a sedentary job, walking is totally underrated. I love walking. I think people do not value walking enough. So if you're somebody who has pain in the body, do not think that walking is not a valid exercise.
As somebody who co-authored with my wife a book on walking, I couldn't agree more. Yes, we did. Barefoot walking.
That's so funny.
Meditation.
Some people will say to me, meditation's not for me. I'm just not good at meditation. I say, if you have a mind, meditation is for you. The mind is always going. Meditation it's a must for self-care, but I will say something quickly, that the goal of meditation is not to be without thought. And I believe that that is what stops most people from meditating, because they start and they go, oh, I was thinking the whole time. There will be moments without thought, and I have some meditations that are thoughtless that are fantastic, and I also have some meditations where when I finish the meditation, I think I thought through that whole thing. And it's not about stopping thought. It's about allowing the thoughts to move through you without attaching to them.
Beautiful. The next one
is
silence.
What do we do? Silence. Like, I've got to count them. Silence.
Sorry, messing with you with the silence.
Like, tell me which one it is. I don't remember. Silence. We're on our phones. We're talking to people all day. Without having periods of silence, we cannot listen to the body. The body whispers. The body does not scream until it becomes a huge problem that then requires treatment. So if you want to lose weight permanently, live fulfilled, and prevent ill health, manage high vitality, you need to listen to whispers, and you need to be quiet enough to hear them. I believe there should be silence a little bit every day. But now that I have a child, I am now adjusting my expectations and aspirations. And if you can do this silence in nature, you're getting a massive 2-for-1. But if you can't, that is also okay.
The 5-second rule.
The 5-second rule is that it only takes 5 seconds. You know what the first thing my thought was? Well, if you drop a food, you can eat it in 5 seconds.
Oh my God, we all know that rule. And my truth to that now is, and this I take it to the other side of things, in an okay environment, of course, which is, if you don't get it in 5 seconds, you probably picked up something in it that's actually going to be good for your gut and help build resilience.
Get some germs. The 5-second rule is that it only takes 5 seconds for your mind to talk you out of doing something. So when you have that thought, hey, now would be a good time to meditate. Ooh, this would be the best time to start cooking so that by the time the food is ready, I haven't eaten my entire pantry. That you only have 5 seconds to take action before your mind starts to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't.
Excellent. Last 2 questions in the speed round here. First off, the importance of a peace treaty.
We can be pretty mean to ourselves. And I believe, and this may be the one thing that you do after you listen or watch this may be the thing that you say, oh, I'm going to take action on this, is that it's really important to make peace with how you've treated your body in the past and tell your body how you like to communicate and support it moving forward. And I call it a peace treaty. It's a letter you write to yourself that says, I'm sorry, and here's how I want to treat you from now on, and this is what this is going to look like.
Beautiful. Is the intention an empowering wake-up statement, or is there something else we should do first thing in the morning?
The intention, there's so many things that it can be. It depends on where you are energetically. The intention can be this powerful, energy-creating statement, or it can be a statement that's preparing you for silence and preparing you to go in. Where, instead of me, and it can be the same thing. 95% of the time, my intention upon waking is to be as present as I possibly can. And that spans far beyond food, but with my thoughts, with my emotions, with my behaviors. But it can be whatever it is your body needs to be, but just make sure that you're using awareness first thing to put out there what you want the day to be instead of the day just happening to you.
Thank you. Is there one homework assignment you want to give people today to help them step forward on this journey?
Yes, buy the book and read the book. Feed your soul.
Perfect segue. And to find your beautiful book, here we go. And to find out more, you want people to go to, this is subliminal as I'm holding it here.
Find the book. You can go to carlypollack.com. But the book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound. So I would just go on Amazon and pick up the book because that's the easiest thing to do. But check out carlypollack.com for so much more information. I have a wonderful blog on there. Nutritional Wisdom is the private practice that I have in Austin, Texas. And on nutritionalwisdom.com, you will find over 1,000 healthy recipes that are dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, soy-free. And so there's a lot of resources for you.
Awesome. So if you didn't catch carlypollack.com, that's carlypollack.com, or nutritionalwisdom.com, come on over to inspirenationshow.com. We'll get you over to carlypollack.com and nutritionalwisdom.com. 2 more questions, real brief meditation. First off, Jessica wouldn't let me let you go without asking a question for parents and their kids.
Yes. So, the question would be about healthy children?
Healthy children, helping them to eat well and learn about their bodies.
I find that kids are much more intuitive than we are with food, and that really they already know. It's about facilitating the expression of that instead of what we typically do is unteach them. I mean, kids are incredibly intuitive. So my answer to this, a quick answer would be honor your child's hunger and fullness cues. And when they're not hungry, don't let the books, I mean, even my 8.5-month-old, all the books tell me at this point that she should be eating different textures and finger foods and 3 times a day. And she just loves the mama milk. And she'll eat a couple bites of sweet potato. And so many people would say she's behind on the food. And I'm just honoring her hunger and fullness cues. I'm not trying to airplane food into her mouth when she's not looking just to get it down her belly so I can feel better that she's had what the book says she should have. So I say, step back and facilitate that and make sure that you're giving them vegetables as the first thing that they eat so that they can have a taste for it. No rice cereal, no boxed thing. The first thing that Tilly ate was avocado mixed with breast milk.
Woohoo! On that note, what brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
Oceans, my family, waking up in the morning with air in my lungs and my heart is beating, talking about this, helping other people, my cats,
Very,
food.
very cool. Any last words of wisdom? This has been phenomenal, Carly. Any last words of wisdom before we go into a really brief meditation?
Last thing I would say is that you have to bring compassion, self-compassion to your relationship with food. You are going to mess up. I still mess up. I still eat unconsciously. I still eat when I'm not hungry. And instead of getting mad at yourself or judging yourself or punishing yourself with a treadmill workout, I look at it and say, ooh, this is a beautiful, gentle reminder that there's still work to be done and that there's something that really needs my attention today that's not about the food. And so really practice that compassion.
Woohoo! Would you have time for a very brief meditation?
Absolutely. Okay, let's go ahead and close our eyes. Make sure that the muscles behind your eyes are relaxed. Relax your jaw, your tongue. Do a scan from the very top of your body, starting with your head, your face, your neck, and allow the tension to release from your shoulders, the chest, Allow your stomach to settle through the legs, out through the feet. Give it to the earth. Take your right hand and place it over your heart. Take a moment to give thanks for your beating heart. You don't work for it. You don't do anything for it. It was given to you. It is a gift. Take a moment to be grateful for that gift. Go ahead and take your right hand and place it over your stomach. Have gratitude for your digestive system. It works without you asking it to. It takes food and turns it into nourishment and creates medicine for your cells so that you can thrive. Release your hand back into your lap. Take one last moment to think of one part of your body that you are grateful for. It could be a physical characteristic or something inside of you that you can't see. And lastly, thank yourself for showing up every day, willing to do the work to be healthier, happier, and a more vibrant and compassionate human being. Namaste.
Namaste. Woohoo! I've been totally mellowed out. What a beautiful interview, Carly. This has been phenomenal.
Thank you so much for having me and sharing this conversation. It's such important work, and I'm just grateful to you that you created this space.
So you are most welcome, and it certainly goes both ways. So got to crank it back up for the finish here. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, feed your soul, and begin nourishing your soul mindfully today, and shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you so much, Carly.
Thank you so much. That was so fun. You're right. That was fun.
That's awesome.
I didn't realize it. There's a cat that must be hiding somewhere in here, coughing up.
Oh, that's what that was. No cats were harmed in the making of this interview.
No cats were eaten. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I was like, we'll just keep going here. So, we have a sneaker in here.
I love it. We have 3 cats, and I'm guessing one is hiding behind the blackout curtain on the other side because she sneaks in for the interview. She wants to be with Daddy.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate that you read the book. I mean, I have done so many podcasts, and it's so obvious that they don't read the book. And I don't even expect them to read the book, but maybe just even a reading the Skimmer's Delight, and you pulled so much from the book. I mean, it's so fantastic. I mean, it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!